automotive aftermarket and digital services. With me today, co-moderating this panel will be Anna Lezerovich-Eckstein, our Business Development Manager at Mobilion. Now, today we want to take a deeper perspective and talk about the connection between the automotive industry, giants such as the OEMs, tier ones, and fleet operators on one hand side, and innovative startups companies on the other hand. We want to better understand the how to establish this cooperation and how to make the most out of it. For that purpose, we've designed this unique session to have three parts. A panel of industry leaders that will share their vision on the route to successful cooperation, 4 short selected startup pitches, and an insightful panel of more mature companies that already went through this collaboration effort. So let me start with the global leader part. Gentlemen, Gael, Alex, Robert, in order for the audience to get to know you better, can each of you go about and tell about a little bit about yourself and your company's position in the global aftermarket? Gael, we'll start with you.
Yes, good afternoon, Avi. So I'm the CEO and founder of Nexus Automotive International. I've been in the automotive aftermarket for a number of years, working for a number of two multinationals in the car equipment sector before founding Nexus Automotive International. And I'm, of course, involved in Mobilion, member of the investment committee of Mobilion, so very involved in the Israeli startup ecosystem.
Thank you, Gael. Alex, your turn.
Hi, everyone. I'm the president of BorgWarner's Aftermarket. I came with the Delphi Technologies acquisition, which happened 6 months ago and was perhaps one of the biggest tier one acquisitions of recent times. I've been in the industry for automotive aftermarket for about 30 years, and I also worked in electrification for a couple of years with ABB.
Thank you. Robert, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Robert Hanse. My professional life I spent with the Bosch Group, Robert Bosch, in different areas, and at the end also in the OE side, so supplying the OEMs with parts. And then before my retirement, I was the president of the automotive aftermarket of Bosch. And now I'm on the board of LKQ, which is the #1 in the United States, especially on used parts and collision. And in Europe, it's the largest distributor for automotive parts to the workshops.
Thank you, Robert. Gael, can you share with us what is the uniqueness of the automotive aftermarket within the automotive industry at large?
Yeah, so the automotive aftermarket is first a very large industry. It's globalizing, it's digitalizing, it's consolidating, it's adding more and more services to its original dimension. So in brief, it's transitioning from a relatively conservative and fragmented and family-oriented industry, to a more service industry and driven towards innovation. So there is a very fast transitioning happening that is probably more radical than what you see overall in the automotive industry. And in addition to that, it's a daily activity. We are here to make sure that there is no rupture in sustainable mobility. So it drives agility, reactivity, adaptation, and a certain sense of emergency among ourselves. That's what we can say.
Thank you. Robert, Gael just touched upon that on the supply side of the aftermarket, the tier ones and the distributors are traditionally very conservative organizations. Can you share with us why should they be interested today in innovative technologies? What's driving them to look for new technologies, new innovations?
Naja, I mean, in general, I think as it always has been, because being a conservative and traditional organization is not a contradiction to being innovative. Because frankly, most of the innovations in the automotive industries come from these very conservative first-tier suppliers, whether it's the latest injection technology, whether it's navigation systems. They also came from the first-tier suppliers. Safety devices like ABS or ESP, or just think at all these driver assistance devices, which lead finally to ADAS, to autonomous driving. So I think conservative is more, and this is something very, very important to all these companies, whether first-tier suppliers or distributors. It's also reliability. Their processes are mature, they are secure, they have excellent processes in logistics, which are very, very important for the market, whether the OEMs or the workshops or the distributors. And within these organizations, you find some virtual startups, and they are really the teams who then invent these new things. So they are more than open to innovations. And I mean, also on the distributor side, they always had to adapt very, very quickly to new technologies. Mind you, if there is a new technology, for example, now we have the EVs in the workshops, they have to really enable the workshops also to deal with these new technologies. So whether it's diagnostic tools, whether it's training. So I think these organizations are desperately waiting for innovations, partly coming from themselves, but they all have, of course, this kind of make or buy decisions. So they are very open to cooperate with others. Yeah, I think for them, the key success factors are really the innovations, because any competitive advantage comes from innovations.
Yeah. Alex, I think that now it comes to you as a major T1. What does startups do not know about the aftermarket or about working with aftermarket T1s, about the way the whole business operate, what they are missing?
So I think the first thing is scale. Yes, there's 90 million cars built every year, but there's an installed base of almost 1.5 billion vehicles around the world with an age around 10, and it's a very resilient market. It's growing, but it's stable growth, and it doesn't have the cyclicality that you have in the original equipment market. Second thing is it's got complex channels to get from production from a company like mine to fit it to the vehicle. It can go through multiple channels. You can simplify OES and the independent aftermarket, but the independent aftermarket breaks down through specialists, wholesale distributors, internet specialists, installers, fleets, retailers, very complex. Thirdly, with 1.5 billion vehicles running on the road, the opportunity to improve sustainability in terms of vehicle emissions and safety is just incredible. It's an incredible obligation that we have to keep those vehicles serviced and performing in the way that they were originally designed or better. And it's a responsibility on us all. And finally, I'm going to talk about a convergence of trends now, which is really important for everybody on the phone to think about. Cars today have been talked about as computers on wheels many times. 200 million lines of code on a vehicle. 30% of the content of a vehicle in terms of the cost of the vehicle 10 years ago was electronics. Today it's 40%. By 2030, it will almost be 50%. When you combine that with the recent developments in connectivity and the fact that 50% of vehicles sold today are fitted with telematics devices, partly because of the e-call requirements of Europe, partly because everybody knows there's benefits to be gained by the telematics, and knowing that you've got now today 80 million vehicles around the world paying subscriptions on embedded vehicle systems, you combine digitization of channels, with connectivity of vehicles, with the electronics on a vehicle, you have a huge eco space there to create more value for consumers, distributors, and installers.
So you're describing quite complex environment. So how, in your opinion, startups should approach the tier ones, and in what stage of their development and matureness? Because, as you correctly said, that there is a gap between the startups, their capabilities, and tier ones and aftermarket distributors that are approaching a very significant market. So how do you bind or bridge that gap?
I don't think it matters too much about the stage of development. It doesn't matter too much, very early stages of development, later stages of development. I think it's important to get some kind of proof of concept and use cases running as quickly as possible. But I think the point I want to mention mainly to help people is about the networking. All the executives like myself, I mean, I get 2 or 3 things nearly every day on LinkedIn to say, look at my my great new idea. And I just, of course, haven't got the bandwidth to look at them all. But most companies like mine, we've got a marketing guy, we've got a guy, responsible for startups and innovation. And most companies are like that. The ways to network into those companies is probably, they're big companies, is probably one of the biggest challenges and the most important things. And I'd really leverage platforms like this, but you've also got the automotive show networks. The Apex in Vegas is great for the States, and the 2 others, the Automechanica show in Frankfurt and the one in Shanghai. There's others, but those are the 3
the major ones.
You'll get all the big global tier ones attending and looking around. I think those are the 3 ones. There's other ones as well that you'll come into contact with, more local management and so on and so forth. But think about how to network, think about how to leverage those forums. There's other forums put in place. Some companies, even do startup days and that kind of thing. So there's ways to network and find the right contacts that can help you build up. And most companies now very open to partnerships, very open.
Very good. Gail, same question goes to you as leader of the distribution side of the aftermarket, Nexus being the largest distribution group. How can startups take advantage of this network in order to reach market and create initial revenues and growth?
I think it's the right moment for startups to get engaged. As I told you, this industry is not suddenly transitioning. It has already started for a few years. But one thing is clear, is that the industry leaders are open to innovation, are open to technology, and this is also driven by consumers. So more services, more digitalization, more connectivity, more technology, etc. This was definitely underexploited by the various ecosystems, the Israeli ecosystems, the Californian ecosystems. It's probably our fault. We were probably not visible enough, not known enough, because we were fragmented. We are working on more visibility. Consolidation is, of course, happening. So it's simplifying the visibility that the aftermarket is now having towards the public and towards the financial community. So I think it's the right moment. And what we see at Mobilion and in general is that there is a rising interest. I would do it now. I would not wait too long, because as everything, when you are arrived at destination and you are fully visible, then it's getting overcrowded. So it's not overcrowded today. It's the right moment for startups to get involved. And I would invite the audience that is hesitating potentially, not to hesitate. There are plenty of opportunities on the table, and we need innovative brains to help us to transform this industry in a service industry.
Great. Robert, in your former position, you had many interaction with the startups. What are the things that startups are missing when they approach, the real world? And basically, tier ones are representing a big majority of that. For example, they want to approach 2 tier ones or 3 tier ones that are competing on the same solution. How should they do it and establish a long-lasting connection, and not just to tell that you had a connection with? So what's your take on that?
Avi, I think there is no difference between a startup and the real world. I mean, you should know the market. And as Alex already mentioned, it's very, very complex. And it's good to know the market you want to be in and you want to really contribute. And I think it's also very important to know the specific problems of your potential customers. And the more you know, the better for you. And well, the aftermarket has its own rules, some strangeties as well. And you have to discover them. But as Alex already mentioned before, it's not only complex from a marketplace. You have also very, very different players there. And you have to know the different needs of these players. These are not only the tier ones, not only the distributors. They are the insurance companies. There are automotive clubs. There are a lot of players acting around the independent aftermarket, or even the OEMs, and last but not least, the driver, like Guy already mentioned. I mean, we always tend to forget him, but I mean, the driver is the crucial,
the real users.
The real user, exactly. Yeah. So this is very, very important. To know the market, it's good, especially now, and Guy already said rightly that we are in a transition. And there are these famous 10 or 12 disruptive trends of the aftermarket. So what is driving really the aftermarket now and in the future even more? These are these new technologies like electrification, connectivity, access to data, all these sorts of things. I mean, it's trivial now to mention all them, but these are the things really which drive tier ones, OEMs, distributors, and they need solutions. Solutions which are sometimes not even known by them how they can really approach it. And here I think the startups, they have a huge opportunity. And when you say how to contact these competing customers, whether tier one suppliers or also OEMs and distributors, it's also, again, as in the real world, you have to go with a clear concept. The maturity is not that important. There, I fully agree with Alex. But I think it's very, very important that you have a clear concept. What can you achieve? How you can contribute? How can you give a solution to something? And you should also have a clear concept. And then, I mean, as in real life, if then your talks to the different customers, competing customers, rule number one is confidentiality. They have to be sure that you don't walk to their competitor and tell him what they are doing. So this is really rule one, but all the tier one suppliers live from that because they are dealing with the Mercedes and the Volkswagens and the BMWs of this world. And it's exactly the behavior which they expect from you. So frankly, giving a recommendation to a startup, it's the basics as in the real world.
Thank you, Robert. Gentlemen, it was very insightful. I hope that the startups, took notes, a lot of tips of what to do and what not to do and how to do it. So I thank you for this participation. Anna, now the floor is yours for the next part of the session.
Thank you, Avi.
Thank you, Gail, Alex, and Robert for this insightful panel discussion. Now we would like to move to our startup pitch session. So I hope you're ready. And first, I'm glad to introduce you to Ian Levy, VP Business Development at Adam Cogtech. Ian, the floor is yours.
Ian, you can go on. Ian?
I apologize, I couldn't get it to unmute there. Now it's unmuted and...
All right.
You can share your screen.
Okay, so thank you very much everyone for the opportunity to present here. I'm representing Adam Cogtech, who is involved in the monitoring and enhancement of human cognitive capabilities. Adam is focused on the measurement and enhancement of the driver cognitive performance. We use subliminal light impulses to actually use artificial intelligence to understand a driver's cognitive capabilities. Unlike traditional driver monitoring, which looks at events that have already occurred within a driver and dangerous situations that are almost too late often, Adam actually preempts those errors before they occur. Adam has two products that we offer in the market. That is the Adam Detect, which measures the human cognitive performance, addressing the real-time issue with human cognition, and Adam Enhance, which actually enables the enhancement and cognitive performance for the user. Now, whilst Adam is a fairly young startup, Adam is technology is based on over 15 years of cognitive neuroscience research into consciousness and awareness. In the last 3 years, we've taken this neuroscientific research and put it with artificial intelligence into a product that can be sold today to save lives. We look at the modern life challenges, human cognition, humans' needs to execute in complex critical missions in today's day and age, and we look at actually understanding what's going on in the human brain. Adam actually monitors and measures the profiles, the complex interrelationships between eye saccades, pupil dilations, and eyelid positions in response to a specific stimuli. And therefore, we were able to actually understand what is going on inside the driver's brain and their cognition to understand exactly that they're able to do the driving task at hand. As I mentioned, we are still a young startup and we are looking for partners to help us to take this to market. We are today involved in a number of POCs, both for the aftermarket and the new market in the automotive market. And we would be happy to speak to you further about some level of cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ian. Thanks a lot. And next we have Geva Telem, Senior Marketing Manager at Right Vision. Geva, the floor is yours. You can share your screen.
Thank you, Anna. Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Geva Telem from Right Vision. Right Vision is the first ever collision avoidance system built specifically for motorcycles. Founded in 2018, based in Herzliya. Let me share a bit about the problem. There are about 700 million motorcycles on the roads globally, with nearly 400,000 fatalities every year. And motorcycle riders are obviously has the highest chance and rate of fatalities. That could lead to up to 4.1% GDP loss in some European countries. And that keeps growing as more distracted drivers in cars and big vehicles keep paying attention more to their mobile phones and their kids in the back and not on the road. We currently have two products. One is aimed for consumers, which is an aftermarket product, and the other product is an OEM version, which is basically a technology solution that is supposed to be implemented inside the production line. A bit about how this system works is basically Right Vision is a platform. It combines artificial intelligence and image recognition, and it basically has OTA updates Some of the alerts that we can provide or are working on are forward collisions, rear collisions, dangerous overtakes, anything that can give the motorcycle rider a bit of understanding what's going on behind him and in front of him and keeps him more alert. All meanwhile, we keep video recording as we use two cameras on the front and the back. So just in case you need to show these to insurance or police, then you have evidence. From researches that we've done domestically and abroad, we've found that using ride vision collision alerts can reduce up to 15 kilometers per hour, which is significantly can reduce the amount of accidents and the severity of accidents by up to 40%. And this is ride vision. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Geva. And now we are moving to the next startup, a woman, Dor Zarbel, founder and CEO of DIM. Dor, the floor is yours. Feel free to share your screen.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Dor. I'm an electronic and electricity engineer, and my mission in life is to get drunk drivers off our roads and save lives. In US alone, 30 people are killed every day in drunk driving crashes. In Europe, 25% of all road deaths are alcohol involved. Preventing car accidents caused due to drunk driving was and continues to be a global challenge. This is why we at DIM developed a car sensor, which non-invasive monitors the level of alcohol in the driver's blood. All of that happened before starting the ride by a touch sensor. And at the same time, our system knows how to identify the driver with a biometric sensor. Our mission is to become the global solution for preventing drunk driving, to lead the market with smart, small, and easy-to-use sensors for decision-making. This is a simulation of what it will look like in reality. If you would like to see the full video, I would love to share it with you later. The existing solutions in the market are mostly based on the breath test technologies, which are inaccurate and are very expensive. The alcohol sensor market is expected to reach $4.3 billion by 2026. The two leading segments are aftermarket and new owned cars provided by OEM. Today, we are about 8 people in the team, including a lead engineer and a very experienced biz dev expert. Our roadmap for the next 18 months includes algorithm development and lab tests to complete the POC. And by mid-2022, we plan to introduce our first commercial product in the aftermarket for automotive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dor. And now to the last startup, Uri Keren, CRO of ClickIns. Uri, the stage is yours.
Thank you. My name is Uri Keren. I am the Chief Revenue Officer of ClickIns. ClickIns, we work in 3 market segments: the automotive, insurance, and homeland security. Our aim is to automate manual processes related to car damage inspections. If you look at the automotive industries, car fleet companies are losing a lot of money because basically they are missing damages. ClickIns, we are an AI company. We automatically detect and analyze damages based on analyzing digital images. We do it at a very high precision without the need for any special equipment, any special cameras, or any special skills. Even mobile camera is enough for us. What is very unique about ClickIns AI is our capability to create the data that we need in order to train our AI. As you know, to train AI, you need millions and millions of data sets. We develop proprietary technology that allows us to create all the data that we need in order to train our AI. This means that implementation with us is quicker and time to value is much, much shorter. We support many different use cases in the automotive and in the insurance markets. We are continuously partnering in order to increase our value proposition to our customers and to our partners and provide full end-to-end solutions to our customers. These are some of the locations where we have installations. As you can see, we are developing a global footprint, and these are some of the companies that we are already in cooperation with. A bit about the company, founded in 2014. We've been developing and perfecting our technology ever since. We just completed a round of investment, and we are now preparing the company for the next round in order to increase our growth strategy. That's it. If you have any questions, please contact us directly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Uri. This is our startups that presented, and now we are going to our next panel, which is going to be with mature companies. So we heard the global big players, some young startups, and now we're going to hear some startups that did it in the big market. So in this panel, I'm honored to host Shirley Kalush, CBDO from Go2Global, Kobi Hasson, CRO from Trafilog, and Robbie Willikes, Director of Business Development, Europe at Automotive. Hey guys, you look great today.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Anna.
Okay, so let's start with a short introduction. I'm not sure that everybody knows you, so please tell us in one sentence about your company and your activity. Let's start with Kobi, please.
Okay, hi. Well, Trafilog is a 15-year-old company, so we're not really a startup. What we're doing is vehicle diagnostics, connected services, and data analytics, and we're providing the full end-to-end solution in these domains. Well, my role is to continue the significant growth of the company by overseeing the revenue-related functions. I'm two months with the company now.
Thanks, Kobi. Shirley?
Hi, everyone. My name is Shirley, and I'm the CBDO of GoTo. I come from the mobility world. I've been in this world for over 10 years, and at GoTo for 4. GoTo is a multimodal mobility platform. We actually provide users shared cars, shared mopeds, shared kick scooters, and shared bikes. We do that in Spain, in Malta, and in Israel. And our end customer is the user, and we work a lot with the OEMs and the telematics as our suppliers.
Thanks, Shirley. Rob, please.
Yes, my name is Rob Willikes. I'm based out of the Netherlands. I've been with Automotive for 3.5 years. Automotive itself is about 5 years old. Hopefully we'll go to the NASDAQ as of next month. So a great achievement, I think. What we do, we are a connected car data platform. So we ingest data that's being collected through the telematics control unit that's being built in currently in almost every new car that's on the market. We take that data on board, whether it be personal or aggregated data. We make sure that all compliancy and security standards are adhered, like GDPR, and then we make that data available through our simple API structure to provide services to drivers, to give them a better driving experience, or to give analytics and insights for traffic predictions or shared mobility or whatever use case you can think of.
Thank you, Rob. Okay, so now I would like to start with a question for Shirley. So as a mature startup, please take us back to the beginning. So things are not very easy when you approach big companies, right? I'm also a business development, so I know it by myself. So how do you actually open the door? How do you convince them to talk to you and to look at your product?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and it's the way I follow in life. I always say go to the CEO. So in every single event, and I mean, we've been in so many events, and especially a Commotion, which has been a great partner, so thank you. Really, we bring a lot of people to Israel, right? And so in any of these events, you go directly to the CEO or to the SVP, and you start talking to them. You need to understand what is really on those companies' minds and where they're heading, and what is your value proposition, as they mentioned in the earlier panel. And when you go to these events, you go and you catch them after their speaking slot, and basically tell them about how you can operate together. And this is how we made various connections with OEMs following these meetings. So very similar to what Alex said in the earlier panel.
Thanks, Shirley. Rob, same question.
Yeah, I think that events are also a very good way to meet people, and I also think that you need to have a very crisp value proposition and tailor that value proposition towards the people you're talking to. I think that's the most important thing, and be flexible about it, because if you're a startup, you're also going in unthreaded territory. So you need to learn every day and you need to adapt, but it starts with a strong vision and a good value proposition.
Thank you very much, Rob. Kobe?
Well, I think the common practice and the conventional wisdom of researching your target is a must, especially when you're a startup, and breaking through the noise of, just like Andrew said at the beginning, you know, coming to the, if top down is your strategy, as Shirley has detailed, you have to be very prepared, and you have to invest a lot in researching your targets and make sure that the value proposition is tailored to them, not just your, you know, off-the-shelf value proposition. Well, the social proof and if you can get introductions to these top senior guys, that's always a benefit. And yeah, it's just remembering it's all about them and not about you.
Thanks, Kobe. Okay, so our next question is, what is the difference between working with OEMs and aftermarket players from a mature startup point of view? So this time, let's start with Kobe.
So I'm not sure there is, well, some of the players are playing in both domains. So we work with OEMs many times on the aftermarket, and we work with tier ones on both domains. So it's not necessarily either or, but if I need to draw the main differentiation between the OEM and line fit and the aftermarket, it's the openness to innovation, which is a little bit better in the aftermarket. It's less engineering driven and more customer centric and around value proposition. Complexity of the ecosystem of the aftermarket is higher in many cases, where the variations, the integration, again, we are a complete end-to-end solution. So there is a hardware and integration into the can and physical integrations as well. So it's a much more complex and hairy situation there than in a line fit scenario. Plus it's many times geographically distributed. So in line fit OEM environment, you're working with, you know, a set amount of number of people in set amount number of locations. But in the aftermarket, you, as a startup, you probably have to have some sort of execution partners to enable you to be successful there.
Thank you very much, Kobe. Shirley, you're next.
Yeah, and so I will talk from our experience working, especially with the OEMs. Processes are slower. So we need, as startups, we run so fast, and we need to be patient to understand that the processes just take longer. We need to be planning in advance, okay? So we know that, for example, there's an issue with batteries now in the world, right? Or with the material for batteries. So we need to plan in advance whenever we need to buy, I mean, not buy, but at least the cars or the mopeds. It's things that we need to be in constant touch with the OEMs to know what's going on over them, and also to be able to plan in advance so that we can align to their timing. And I think that another thing about maybe like differences of working with them is that we need to find, you know, the right person. And every region, because they are in many different regions, every region is also doing different things. So it's really understanding the right person in the region and what that region wants to do, because an OEM in Spain is not the same, doesn't have the same ambitions as it has in Israel or in France in many ways.
Thanks, Shirley. Rob, please.
Yes, so I think there are lots of similarities between OEMs and tier ones. Usually they're very big companies. They're also tied together, of course, in that tier one supply products to fit into the OEM's product. So I think that one of the most important characteristics is that you have patience and perseverance and longevity in how you approach the market. Another thing that I think is very important is that you build trust. I think trust, as we say in the Netherlands, it comes on foot and it goes on a horse. So it takes time to build that trust. And what I've seen is that in this market, you will always run into somebody who's worked at an OEM or at a tier one. And so I think that's also very important. Trust, build it, and have patience, because they're not startups. They will not go to a product within 6 to 12 months. It can even take longer. But if you manage to do it, it will have a big impact, of course.
Amazing. Thank you, Rob. So the next question is, so basically how you decide who are the aftermarket players that you want to work with. Do you choose them by considering PR or ROI? Who is my strategic client? How do you know what is the right channel for you? Let's start with Shirley.
Okay, so definitely ROI when choosing the partners. We look especially at, for example, at battery length. Okay, we look at charging capabilities or charging times for the vehicles. We also look at user perception. So what are the users looking for and what will be good for them? And obviously the cost at the end of the day, working with a vehicle that is low cost, but still obviously safe and has better charging capacities, helps us really on the operational side to reach positive unit economics. So at the end of the day, ROI is the major driver.
Thanks, Shirley. Kobe? We can't hear you, Kobe.
Yeah. Well, first I would ask the customer, right? What's their buying practices, who they like to buy from? Well, it depends, right? I mean, what kind of offering you have. But in our proposition, when you want to sell to a certain geography, you go and talk to the customers that you want eventually to be integrated to, and ask them who they like to do business and to do business with and why. And then you go and make sure that these partners or potential partners have the same or complementing value propositions. So it's not selling two different things, but selling the same thing to the same person. So it's also, you have to analyze the purchasing processes of the customers, and when the purchasing decision and by who the purchasing decision is being made for your proposition and the channel proposition. So it's basically, it's sales work regardless if it's a startup or not, right? But that's, I believe, a little bit more important when you are a startup. And again, if I'm a startup, I would look at that potential partner and see if they have experience in introducing innovation to the ecosystem, if they have experience in working with startups, and because as my partners to the panel said already, I mean, to introduce innovation takes time. Either by foot or by horse, it takes time, and you need to make sure that they have that longevity and patience to nurture such an innovative processes.
Thank you a lot, Kobe. Rob, your insights?
Yeah, so I think it also depends a little bit on the company and the phase you're in. I remember that in the beginning, and I use the analogy, are you a dog or a cat? So if you're a dog, you know, if you serve a dog food, they eat everything, and a cat basically smells at its food, and if it doesn't like it, doesn't eat it. So in the beginning, I think that if I look at Autonomo, we were like a dog. You know, we wanted to work with everybody, wanted to get exposure, wanted to learn, wanted to get POCs. And nowadays, I think we're much more critical. We're really looking at what can it bring to us. You know, just PR is not enough anymore. It has to lead to an eventual order. It has to lead to a good product offering. If it doesn't do that, you know, we're not entertaining the possibility. So it's very much driven also by the phase of your company, and what you want to establish.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now a question about relationships. So basically, a big part of your role is, you know, to connect with the right people in the organization, right? Because if you're not talking to the right person, it won't work. So how do you keep in touch with this person? And, you know, like, what are you doing if he's saying, hey, you know, I'm leaving the company and someone else is coming? How do you keep in touch with them? Shirley, let's start with you.
Sure. So I think at the end of the day, relationships is the most important thing in life, right? And that's what makes companies also want to work with you or not. At the end of the day, it's not just how great is your technology, but also like how there needs to be some fit. And it's very important to keep those relationships. So what we do is basically we go sometimes to visit our partners, okay, even if it's abroad. So we flew to Germany, to France, to different partners. And we also have periodical calls with them. So basically to keep updated on what they're doing, on what we're doing, and how we can further our partnerships, okay, and work together. Whether it's different types of financing, whether it's doing some sort of pilot together that will have a positive ROI. So we need to focus very deeply on which pilots we choose and which ones not. So we are kind of like what Rob said, basically focusing on only those that can bring us high ROI. But I think that constant, you know, once every 2 months, having a call with your partners is key, and going to visit them even, you know, maybe once a year is very, very important.
Thank you very much, Shirley. Rob?
Yeah, so it also depends very much on the local market. So you know, I'm from Holland, I'm Dutch, I'm very direct. I could be Israeli easily, but I think in France, for instance, it's much more about getting to know each other and you know, having lunch every now and then. I think that's important. The other thing I think is also important is to be nice. We're very lucky that we have a CEO which everybody loves. So he opens a lot of doors for us. Everybody loves Ben, and it's amazing how far that basically goes. That you have a relationship from the CEO top, which is so friendly and so good. So I would also say in that aspect, you know, be nice and understand that some cultures are also even within the Netherlands, we have different cultures. So within Europe, it can be a world of difference.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Kobe?
So just for the sake of argument, I would say relationship is important, yeah, but it has to be based on values, on the value that you bring to your partner, to your relationship P, if you will, because you know there are many executives in the industry that I consider my friends and I am in touch with on a personal level. But the rest of them, the majority of them, are based on value, and as long as they see value, and it's not value in terms of transactional relationship, but it's value in terms of they understand that they're going to get something from a conversation with you. They learn something new, something that they don't know, a trend that you're familiar with, or other value that you can bring to them. So that's from a relationship perspective. Now, I want to catch a part of the question that you asked that was not addressed, and how you mitigate the risk of that executive leaving the company, or stakeholder that leaving the company, and that is, again, a very basic, I believe, fundamental way of how you manage a sales process, and that is a multi-threaded relationship with the organization. So you make sure you're in contact with more than just one person, and understand the various interest map and in that organization, and make sure you sell to all of the organization, or the departments of the organization. So you're not going to be, it's not going to be a binary sort of scenario if this person leaves.
Thank you very much, Kobi. Well, guys, we're heading to the last question. And of course, it includes the word POC. So let's talk about pilots. So what exactly, is the cost benefit of the pilots? What is the secret number of pilots a startup should consider when he's approaching a big player? He needs to do 3 pilots, 5 pilots, and why? Please, Rob, let's start with you.
Yeah, so we did a lot of pilots, and we learned a lot from it. We invested time, money in it. We had to show to OEMs that we could build an infrastructure that's capable of ingesting data. We had to show that we can get the right consent from the applications going back to the OEM, proving them that they are GDPR compliant. So there's no number to it. It has to work. So, and that basically is also the definition of a POC, right? It's the proof of the concept that it works. So that's number one. Number two is that we are now in a phase where we proved that we could do it. So we basically are skipping some of the POCs and say, we did this a number of times, and we can do it within, a very quick time. And we have our set of APIs that you could integrate into your application. And sure, we can help you, but we're not going to invest loads of time in it. So also in that fact, we've become more effective in running POCs and getting less POCs. But I don't think there's a number to it. People have to trust that it works, have to see that it works. And until you do, it could be 100 POCs that you have to run.
Thank you very much, Rob. Shirley, let's see what you're saying.
So I think, as Rob mentioned before, it really depends on the stage of the startup, and also it depends who you're selling to. Since our focus is users, and we get a lot of requests actually from OEMs and others to do POCs, but really our focus is to acquire more users and other things. So we are questioning very deeply every single pilot. And as I mentioned on the earlier question, is there a return on the investment? So right now, we're going to do a pilot with a supplier, and there is a clear return on the investment for both sides. Okay, so this is something that we decided to go forth with. But the type of startup that we are and the stage that we are choosing very carefully to see if it brings the benefit, because pilots can take a lot of time and energy from the people at the company, and sometimes you need to put 1 or 2 or 3 people full-time just for that when you have so many other things to accomplish. So it has to have clear ROI.
Thank you very much, Shirley. Next, Kobi.
Well, in most cases, all the parties around the table wants to date before they marry, right? So you have to know your partners or the customer. You have to start small. before you actually launch commercially, and then fixing an issue is much more I think cumbersome. And even when you decide to go to a pilot, obviously it's a means to an end, right? The pilot as its own, it's not the target, right? The target is to establish the go-to market and prove the technology and the use case. I think we're out of time, so just define the POC or the pilot very well with clear timelines and KPIs, and just make sure it's a milestone in a long-term go-to-market and not just a target on its own.
Thank you very much, guys. I would like to thank all of you for coming to this event. In case you have any questions now to this panel, to the startups, or to our global leaders panel, please feel free to share it with us, either here on the chat, or you can send us emails. Avi, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, I really hope that this session with all its different parts gave you, the audience, a bit of extra value. This is what we are up to, and this is exactly why we established Mobillion 2 years ago, and already moving on with our investments. And the idea here is really to connect all players, all strategic players, coming together from different angles. And I hope that this session was in some way helpful and brought value. Anna, thank you for moderating it with me. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Avi, and thank you for all the panelists and the startups that presented today. And be safe, and feel free to reach us for any question. We will send you the link with the recording of the event and all the presentations of the startups.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.